Alright, so China just came out with their GDP and it was better than estimate, okay? But that's what the publication is talking about. But we have to get into the fine lines of things because let's go through some of the things that China has already been going through for the entire year. So first of all, we have to talk about the property market because the property market basically has been destroyed ever since the whole Evergrande situation. And even right now, it has not been properly managed or the situation hasn't actually been diffused either. So with properties all being built but not exactly done, developers are also not exactly getting the loans needed for them to actually complete all these developments. So because they are unable to actually borrow money to complete the projects, they are leaving the homeowners holding the ultimate bag, which is an unfinished home. And all those homeowners cannot actually do anything about it either. So that's kind of one of the huge situation that hasn't exactly been talked about or have actually been confronted by the government. Of course, they are trying their best to actually lower the interest rates for people to actually borrow money for them to actually finish with the project. But currently, I don't think that that's going to be happening anytime soon. Next up, we have to talk about the COVID zero policy. And I'm pretty sure everybody knows this by now because COVID zero policy has been so detrimental to businesses out there. Because, I think earlier in 2022, China was basically closing down Shanghai, closing down Shenzhen, closing down so many different cities for just like 10 to 100 COVID cases, stopping a lot of businesses from actually continuing to innovate and also continue on with businesses. And that has been very, very bad for the whole entire country as a whole. But of course, their whole mindset is because they do not want any sort of COVID cases. They do not want a new another huge cluster to happen again. They do not want another huge COVID case to just close down the entire country for another year. So for China, basically they are just going to weed out from the root itself. Whenever there is 10, they are going to close down that whole entire city and just reform the entire thing. Of course, there's a lot of mixed reviews about what this is going to happen. Okay, personally, I'm not a really big fan of how the zero COVID policy is actually being done. But yeah, they are actually getting all those drones and such to give out the messages. It's kind of almost like Armageddon sort of scenario in China, how they actually do all those lockdowns and such. Alright, next up we have to talk about retail spending in China. And retail spending has actually been getting reamed in China because people are not spending money. Okay, I'm pretty sure that I talk about retail spending quite a lot for the US market as well. We talk about how much people spend, about inflation, so on and so on, yada yada yada. Okay, but for China right now, people are not spending money because people already know how bad the situation is in China. And right now we even have reports saying that in the first quarter of 2022, which is about January and February, Chinese citizens are saving more than 4 to 5 times of their money year over year, which is incredible, okay? Because that's a very, very huge issue. People are not spending money. And of course, historically, we always knew that Chinese citizen has always helped with the retail spending of the entire world, okay? And if the Chinese citizens are saving up to 4 to 5 times the amount of their money and not spending in the market, forget about the Chinese economy as a whole. We have to talk about the whole entire world economy, such as your automobiles, which is why, of course, we have to talk about Tesla in another video. I'm not going to talk about it in here. I want to talk about China. Okay, so retail spending is going to it got destroyed, and 4 to 5 times lesser year over year, basically, and that's going to be again detrimental to businesses, going to be detrimental to the whole entire economy. But of course, those Chinese citizens get to save a lot more money. They have a lot more safety behind, having a safety net for a lot more cash on hand. And finally, we cannot forget about Taiwan. Alright, so I'm pretty sure that the geopolitical tension for China right now is also a very, very huge issue because the relation for China with the West currently hasn't exactly been the best at the moment. And of course, with what got brought into the spotlight earlier this year, which is Nancy Pelosi visiting Taiwan, despite the fact that China has already warned them repeatedly to not do so. But of course, because of what Nancy Pelosi actually did by going to visiting Taiwan, tension definitely did not improve. If anything, tensions went more tightened. And because of that, we also cannot forget about what Joe Biden just did last month. Well, this month actually, not last month, this month. Okay, because what Joe Biden did with the chips manufacturer, getting all the chips manufacturer to get out of China. They do not want anyone to be helping China with the chip manufacturing, and also anything to help them advance into their whole advanced AI era for China. And of course, that's kind of sound like a pretty good thing for US to do so, because they do not want China to be going ahead of them. But at the same time, that is going to be worsening ties with China. But of course, it's not as if that the ties were actually really good to begin with. So yeah, that's why they have to fight for Taiwan, because Taiwan is one of the biggest chip manufacturer that is out there, and China definitely wants to get into Taiwan. They want to make sure that Taiwan is part of China, and for the US, they want to prevent China from getting Taiwan. So after what happened with Russia Ukraine, honestly speaking, I feel that there is a very good chance that this might be a huge conflict yet again. So of course, hopefully this does not actually happen, but if it does happen, I'll be covering it, which is the whole US versus China over Taiwan. I'm not sure. I really hope it's not going to happen, but I'm going to be taking this really, really seriously, because let's be honest, we weren't expecting Russia Ukraine to happen for real. We always thought that Putin was going to punt on his actions, but he actually delivered, sadly. But anyway, let's sum it all up, which is, at the moment, we do not actually see any potential in loosening of the COVID-0 policy, which is horrible. This is going to be, again, detrimental to businesses and the economy as a whole. And of course, with President Xi Jinping, taking the helm of the ship yet again, showing a lot of power in this current meeting. This meeting is actually held every 5 years, and he actually showed his power by holding on to his position for the next 5 years. Also further solidifying the fact that private enterprise in general is dead, or at least in this 5 years it's going to be dead. Okay, because if you were to look at the stocks market yesterday, you look at Barber, you look at JD, you look at Neo, Xpeng, Li Auto, like Pinduoduo or Baidu, all these sort of companies, all these Chinese companies that are being listed in the United States, all down 12, 15, 70, 17%. Okay, they're all down like crazy because of the whole entire thing that happened to China. Private enterprise is most likely dead in China. They are all going to go towards the whole state enterprise situation. So yeah, right now I think free market in China is going to be very, very hard. But anyway, I think that's all for China. And to think that we are all thinking China's GDP went up more than expected was the news. Looks like there's a lot more for us to actually debunk. But anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.